This is TWiT.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to TWiT, your tech hub for intelligent, thoughtful conversations. If you want to take your experience to the next level and support what we do here at TWiT, say goodbye to ads and say hello to Club TWiT. With Club TWiT, you unlock all our shows ad-free. You also get exclusive members-only content. We do a lot of great programming just for the club members. You also get behind-the-scenes access with our TWiT Plus bonus feed and live video streams while we're recording. And don't forget the fantastic members-only Discord. It's where passionate tech fans like you and me hang out, swap ideas, and connect directly with all of our hosts. It's my favorite social network. I think you'll like it too. Club TWiT. It's not just a subscription. It's how you support what we do and become part of the TWiT family. Your membership directly supports the network, helping us stay independent and keep making the shows you love. If you're ready to upgrade your tech podcast experience, head to twit.tv/clubtwit and join us today. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the club. Hello, everybody. We're starting a little early on the Club TWiT AI user group. We got our wires crossed with Chris Marquardt, our photo guy, and so the photo segment did not happen. We will reschedule it probably next week at this time and do it then. But fortunately, Larry's here, LRAU, that's how you know him, in the Laurentium Gold. You know him from the Club TWiT Discord. I'm very proud of myself. I mentioned this last time. I'm going to say it again because I'm so proud of myself that I deduced that that was your name.
Yes.
From your handle. Most handles,
you're the 1%.
I bet. Most handles are completely obscure. Like why Paul calls himself Chocolate Milk Mini Sip is beyond any understanding, right?
Yeah, but you had the AOL screen name generator.
Ah, that's right. What was I forgot. We asked Perplex or ChatGPT 5 what my screen name should be, given what it knows about me. That was yesterday on IM.
There was something about bandwidth, Lord, or
Mr. Bandwidth or something. I think
Mr. Bandwidth.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. I think Chief Twit's good. I'm going to stick with Chief Twit now that Elon decided he didn't really want it after all. He quickly got rid of that, and I'm wondering. So this is what it proposed. Here, let me turn on my. I forgot to return on my screen. It proposed Techno Leo, Laporte line, Bite Me Leo, Mike Man 68, which I'm a little partial to. That really feels like an AOL handle. Warp Drive Leo or Mr. Bandwidth. I kind of like Mike Man 68. That's a very AOL-y handle.
Sure. And it thinks you're born in 1968, which is great.
Yeah, I love even better. Yeah. That's right. That's your birth year, isn't it? It's often your birth year. Yeah. That's
yes.
Right. So, Larry, what did you want to show us this time on the AI user group?
Well, like I said, I didn't prep anything because.
You don't need to. Dr. Do is coming up. We're going to talk about n8n. Have you ever used n8n?
No, I've seen it. I've looked at it, and knowing that he was demoing it, I looked at it a little bit more. And there's a bunch of tools like this that are then almost completely no code, which you're drawing and stuff. Wow. And I think they're definitely going back to what we talked about the other time. I said there's this productivity pair where you're going to be interfacing with an AI. The programming, the coding stuff will go kind of away at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. And a nodal system is an interesting way to go. It's funny when you teach kids how to program, they often use these nodal systems. There are a couple of really good examples. Carnegie Mellon had one called Alice that was, I think, Smalltalk based. And of course, Apple has its playgrounds.
There was Turtle. Do you remember Turtle?
There's Turtle logo. Yeah, Turtle graphics.
Turtle logo.
I could, so I've just been playing with it a little bit, and I could show some of the.
Do you? So let me ask first, Anthony. This is Anthony Nielsen, in case you don't know, who is really the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain for all of this stuff.
No.
Twisting the handles like this all the time. He has better setup than I do, frankly. Yeah, I rip him for it every time I see his images of his like desk. It's like, dude, that is nice. How do I get that? So Anthony has been playing with this a little bit. So let me ask Anthony: are you self-hosting, or did you put it on a shard somewhere or on a VPS?
Yeah, so I'm using a Hostinger. So it's was it
VPS,
VSP
virtual private server. Yeah, and it's basically a shared server that's cheap. Like DigitalOcean is one.
Yeah,
there are a lot of those.
I think it was like I was doing like $10 a month or something.
Right.
It's a lot cheaper than running it from n8n because they also, like, I think if you do it directly from n8n, they charge you per like workflow execution. So
yeah, that makes sense because their business model is, they are open source, so you can self-host, but I'm sure they hope that you will
Why
use
is this
their
not letting me click around the
platform.
We stop sharing for a second.
So I presume though you could also set it up locally, and I would guess it could be you would use Docker most likely to do that.
Oh, there.
That's what everybody seems to be doing these days.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on.
What models?
Sorry for the technical difficulties. Go ahead.
What models are you using for the coding on this, or do you get to choose? I mean, can you use it with Claude Code, or I know?
Oh, like the LLMs. Yeah. So it depends on the. Well, here I can show you. So there's like AI nodes.
Let me pull up your camera. Your camera.
Oh,
here.
Yeah. Just drag it over.
Let me make it big. That's so cool, the nodal coding thing.
Yeah. So zoom out. Like it doesn't have to be AI. Like there's a lot of stuff that's not AI, but there are nodes that do contain AI. And I just dropped in one that's just a basic chain where like you have an input and output, and you could plug in, pretty much any model you want. Like if you have a Llama local thing, you could do that. Or what I've been using is Open Router, and you tie that to your your Open Router account, and then you could.
Okay. So Open Router, is that like a LM Studio sort of, or? It's
a host. Like basically, you create an account on Open Router, and like they just serve a bunch of models, and they all have a different.
It's more like Hugging Face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can see like there's Mistral. Or go ahead.
I think it's more like a load balancer. It'll send it to whichever model you want. You can just pick a model.
It's routing. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's routing. Yeah.
Okay.
And there's a couple free models. There's expensive models. You're paying. Open Router. This is why I like using this because you can test any kind of model you want on the same code.
Yeah, like if you want to use GLM.
This is kind of what Perplexity and Coggy Assistant do. Is they orchestrate multiple models so you can choose.
But if you do have if you are paying for OpenAI, you could just put in your API
the API key.
Yeah. So let's see, Dr. Do's here, which is even better because he could.
Dr. Do is doing the do. Hello, Dr. Do.
How's it going? Let me get my headphones on here real quick.
Dr. Do is an actual PhD now. By the way,
Well,
Paul explained Chocolate Milk Mini Sip. He says the reason, if it matters, is that Discord went through a phase where the handle had to be unique, and I was stumped, but I remembered something silly from my elementary school days, and I went with it. But actually, I like P. Hall, Phaul, because his initials are PH, and he's Paul. So I always thought that was kind of a cool handle. But anyway.
So while Dr. Do gets set up, I could kind of just show you what this workflow does.
Oh, so is this a real live workflow?
Yeah.
Wow. So this is what you use.
I mean, right? It's a work in progress, but right now, like all this does is this is looking at every hour, we're looking at your raindrop RSS feed,
or when you click it manually. Yep.
Yeah. So it's triggered every hour, and then it's going to filter the past hour.
Just stuff I posted in the last hour.
Yeah, okay. We could actually. Yeah, and then.
So I bookmark just per background on this. I bookmark all the stories we're going to cover on the shows.
I could run
a raindrop instance.
Let's go ahead and execute it.
Oh. Problem.
Yeah, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
Mhm.
But we could kind of take a look in each. We could dive
See
in
it
here.
actually
So like,
executing.
here's this is what the scheme is kind of. So like, there's timestamp, but then that's the table actually. But you could see like what an entry looks like. Oh, okay, that's for the RSS feed. Here's the output on the other side.
So left is input, right is output there.
Yeah. So you can see like there's 50 items, and so like there's the title of the story, there's the link, publish date, and then the content snippet and stuff like that.
It's kind of like object-oriented programming where each little box is code, and then you route arrows in and arrows out. And so it's kind of cool because they can be little black boxes. And I presume that a lot of these are kind of pre-programmed in. They're existing, kind of like Apple script programming or Automator programming, that kind of thing.
So I put a condition here to like basically look at the time. If it's older, like only pass on items that are less than an hour old, because like it runs every hour. I don't want like duplicates.
Right.
So that's what that filter is. And then I clean up some of the parsing of the data. Then ideally, it would take, because you have tags in your RSS feed where it's like TWiT, SN, and such.
Right. I made them all TWiT now for you so that this workflow would work, because I used to put a show number in. Yeah.
So like as I'm testing, basically, at the bottom I have basically just passing all entries into the Leo's Links Google Sheet. But then I'm testing out these filters where it's like, if it's IM, go to the IM doc. I just haven't like built this out yet and added all the link IDs and stuff like that. But that's like
got a question for you on that too. You were showing that earlier, and I was thinking that would be a great place for a switch. I wasn't sure if you tried switches or if there was a limitation with switches that wouldn't condense down to. I'm just playing around. Switch is probably better, but I just want to filter because like it's easy to say, okay, if it has this tag, let it through in this path. So yeah, that's one of the things I've been playing with. And then ideally, like, it'd be cool. Another one I've been playing with is looking at getting the content from those articles, and kind of, it'd be cool to like have a little summary synopsis of each article in your rundown. So that's another. If I could find it. No, that's not it. But here we go. So another thing is where it'll grab the links, do an HTTP request, pull the content, and then like try to extract the information. So like for each entry in your RSS feed, like kind of read the article, do a summary, and then like put that back in the spreadsheet. But I'm still playing with that one. It's not built out yet, so you can see there's like a lot of junk in here. Been playing with one tool called what is this one called again? Firecrawl.
Are there third-party tools too that you can integrate?
Yeah. So like HTTP request is a built-in one, but Firecrawl is a third-party service, which apparently does better. Website scrape. But I was even just looking around. There's Raindrop here, so if you have a pro account, you could give me your API keys, and I could just.
I could do that. Well, you should have asked. I have a pro account.
So here's Raindrop, and you can see there's you could say, create a collection, get a collection.
Yeah, that's much simpler. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think I do that with Zapier actually. Yeah. Because I have a Zapier workflow, which is considerably simpler than this, which takes the Raindrop bookmark and then does two things. One, sends it to a Google Sheet, which is normally what the producers use to populate our show rundowns. And then it also sends it to Mastodon, to the TWiT news account on Mastodon. So at twit.social, if you follow the TWiT_news account, you'll get every time I post or I bookmark something, it'll show up there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's done with Zapier, which works perfectly well for this. But you've got something a little. And the idea is to do something even more sophisticated, right?
Yeah. So like you could see here's after doing like a scrape URL from Firecrawl, here's a basic like LLM prompt where like, so this is the input, like there's a bunch of stuff in here from that crawl that you don't really need, but like my prompt is to, extract only the main article content from the following in markdown text, remove all navigational elements, cookies, and yada, 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 just so like we get a clean article, and then later like it'd probably have another chain where it summarizes the article. But yeah, so
Neat.
that's kind of some things I've been playing with. So are you good
Dr. Jew
to
has prepared a demo for us, I think.
I had the demo and I couldn't get all of the elements, so I'm going with my live, which is quite a lot more than that. And we can always bounce around to what you might be interested in. I'll see if I can do the screen share here.
Yeah.
And of course, the Mac is going to want to grab permissions, which is probably going to make me reconnect. Yeah, let me get that set up here. And fortunately, everything I run is on lockdown mode, so it's kind of a pain. Okay, let's see if it will do that one. Let's see if you guys can see that.
Yeah.
Okay. So
make
this
it
is
as
my-
big as you can. I don't know if you're able to make it bigger.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I've got a lot
that's
in this
useful.
one.
Yeah.
Kind of like how you've got. I have all of these different ones here where I have subtasks. So a lot of what I do is, so I kind of just work through the basic here. If we go over to the IO, these are all my inputs. So this is where I have Gmail triggers, I have Discord, I have Telegram, I've got Google News. And so some of these are on timers. So maybe every 30 seconds, I'll check Discord because there's no trigger. But on something like a Telegram, whenever a message is sent, it sends a trigger. I run ngrok, N-G-R-O-K. And what that does is that lets me put in a webhook. So Telegram bots will reach out to the webhook and actually ping my computer for the reply.
Unrelated to Grok AI, I presume.
Yeah, no. This is ngrok. This is a free open source. What it basically does, it gives you a URL on the internet that's temporary for as long as you run it. The moment you kill the process and restart it, you get a fresh new one. It's a free tier, unless you're doing something crazy with it. So it allows me to throw up a long random endpoint. But the main one you were looking at is my thinking. So most of these go into a thinking, and I kind of do a lot of pre-processing. So the first thing, and my bot, and this is not, I call mine Annie, and I did this before Musk named his Annie, and it kind of ticks me off.
Oh, I didn't know he named his any. So if you hadn't said anything,
I'm a fan of the HBO series for Dune, and of course the spoiler. The AI in for the Sisterhood is Anarul, which is like one of the last AIs in the universe. So I thought that was a good name.
Good name. Wow.
So,
and a deep cut, I might add.
Yeah. If you get it, you get it. Probably you got to be a real science fiction nerd.
Yeah.
But so when that throws in here, I do a lot of these subflows. So, and what I do that because you can see how large this is, and these even call other subflows.
This is impressive.
That looks insane.
Yeah.
It's so large.
But you build it up bit by bit. I mean, you're not,
yeah.
Right? Yeah.
It's built up from a single line. And then I say, hey, I also want Telegram to talk. So instead of splitting, I'll make an IO that takes all the inputs and all the outputs. And I can take all this and crunch it down to a single block. It's very object oriented, like you were just saying. I do things like I'll get the last message because what I've learned about a lot of these chatbots and n8n, this is whether it's GPT-5 or the image processing or Kimi K2, if you put in a chat history, you're going to go, why is this not working? It's not working. It just keeps crashing. It's not doing tool calls. The moment that you remove the chat memory, it works. So what I do as part of the prompt is I will grab the last output that it had plus my input. And I'm like, I just need it to make tool calls. It doesn't need to know the chat history. So let me just grab that and throw that in with no memory. So I do that. Yeah, go ahead.
Before we move on, so like this is what the purpose of this is, just like a general chat.
Is it a bot? What does it do?
Yeah, is general agent or like what's okay? Yeah,
this will sit anywhere. I was actually trying to say, they used to have it where you could connect to Signal and things. So basically, I can run this locally, but wherever I'm at, because I travel to the Midwest a lot, I grab my phone. If I want to do pictures, I go through Discord. If I need longer outputs, I go through Telegram. I also have a iCloud Dropbox, so I can drop in PDFs. It will automatically process and then send a chat message that I processed and stored this. And so I use it. This is a catch-all everything kind of thing. I don't have casual conversations. I usually want it to do something or remember something.
So you're using Telegram as kind of an agent in the cloud to kind of store stuff, or?
Yeah, you can. If you create a chatbot in n8n, you get this little local, or you can put up a web server. And I'm thinking, I don't want to run an app. I don't want to make a chat app. I just want the bot, and I want it to work through whatever I have access to. It can read my Gmail. So if I send a Gmail to myself, it reads all of my incoming Gmail. I turned off its ability to send, but I can send myself a Gmail. I can send myself a Telegram, and it will always wind up here. And then, if
that's really interesting. So you're basically using them as switchboards, kind of almost.
I was replacing ChatGPT. I was replacing the Claude web interface. So I don't want to, like, those are great, but they're only going to do what they say they want to do. And my thing for using n8n is I want to do what I want to do, and I want to integrate with the tools I want. It's like, for instance, I used to have my bank hooked to this. I used YNAB, and it could read YNAB. So I will tell you the tokens for pulling a YNAB you might as well go have a nice steak dinner. So some things you don't want to do, but live and learn. But yeah, that's why.
So basically, like your general assistant that you could talk to through any app, pretty much.
Yeah. And
it all ends up in some database somewhere. Where does it all end up?
So, and people are going to hate this, but at least programmers will. I use Supabase because it's very easy. It's a vector database,
right?
And so if I want to do a search, every single conversation I ever have and all of its replies, I have 100% memory storage. So every time it does a reply, way up here, you'll see my Supabase memory. If I have so if I have a conversation, it will remember what I said a year ago.
This is like the Empire Starship in Star Wars. It's getting bigger as it flies over.
And I will tell you, the only reason you see these lines, I wouldn't have to have these lines, but then I got to copy and paste all these tool calls to every single, and it's easier to just make a line and have it in one spot. It's the same thing. These lines are basically like if you programmed a function call. So, if you're in any program, you'd rather have the function call. So that's why there's all these lines. Yeah.
Okay. And you're basically doing composition of each of these tools.
Yeah.
To the output. We should mention that your PhD is in management information sciences. This guy has a doctorate in computers. So
I basically do systems thinking. So
this is what he does.
This works with my brain.
This nodal interface is probably very familiar to you for that reason. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you're thinking like if you think of, very basic, everything's a function. My Gmail's a function.
Right.
If I were to click on this, it would actually go to a subflow. So you can make a tool call to a subflow too. So if you look here, and this is sort of newer to what you had to yours, the new ones have a GPT, or I should say an AI fallback. So I'm running GPT-5 here, but if it fails, it will immediately fall back to an open router model. And I usually have an Anthropic there, or I have something else there.
That's really cool.
I don't really know Grok, but.
And what is the AI doing in the process? What is the?
So this is in here you put your chat instructions and prompts, and basically what I want to do is actually back here. I have the GPT-5 system picker they said was broke.
Yeah.
My system picker works and is not broke. So it looks at my message and I can call them out. I can say system 1 and it will run system 1. But if I just put something in, it will actually have a logic to what system I want to run. If it's 1, 2, or 3, that's thinking. If I want low thinking, medium thinking, or high thinking. System 4 is basically sort of like a predictor, like, hey, who do you think is going to win the next World Series? And it will do searches and look at betting sites and things, and it will tell me that. System 5 is my file system, and it's deciding between those. And then I put all my variables in an input, and so I don't have to keep carrying. I learned that very early that I was having mismatched variables, so I put them all in here, and so all of these all my prompts and everything live in this IO prompts, and that just feeds everything. So if I want to make a system-wide change, I just go into here to change the prompt or fix it, and then that just goes out to all the rest of these. Like, for instance, I have another picker. If I do a 5, so I tell you guys, sometimes I develop the OSINT. So I want some open source intelligence. I want to know things. I want to know about people, places, organizations. I just tell it a system 5. I tell it what I want. Here's another picker. It says, okay, what's the subject matter of the question? Is it let me zoom in here, people, organizations, events, or projects? And then each of those has their own prompt. They get all the tools. So I actually do use Opus here. This is where I want sort of the max do everything, and I don't run these very often. And then it goes into a workflow, and you might like this with some of your work, Anthony. Let me see if I can go into executing the workflow. So this is a file update.
Let me interrupt just briefly. I'm going to have to run. I'm sorry I can't stick around for this because I'm fascinated, but I will watch the recording. So do a good job. And I appreciate your doing this, both Larry and Dr. Du. I appreciate everything you do in our club, and I appreciate all our club members. Thank you for making this possible. Thank you, Anthony. I'm going to put you in charge, okay?
Yep, I got it.
All right. Take care, guys.
Thanks, Leo.
And I apologize, Anthony. I thought 5 p.m. Eastern, and it's still 4:54 here. So I don't know if I was off on time as well.
You're not off on time. It's
Okay.
There was a problem with our previous event, so we started early.
And I was working too. They were pinging me, and I was trying to do work. I was on a conference call.
My apologies.
No, it's okay. I was just like, wait, everyone's here.
We do our best, Anthony. You know, I have a lot of questions, Drew, but I'm going to let you keep going before I ask.
I know a lot of that. A lot of it's basically LLMs on LLMs. I mean, if I pick like system 1, 2, or 3, it's going to say, it just reruns it. It runs. I have prompt. If you choose one, run this and go to output. And then I slap on a personality at the end. I don't let any of this do a personality. And then I basically have Sonnet 4 at the end, which is really good at personality. It'll take all of that input and then make it sound okay in chat.
Oh, so everything comes back to one, at the end of it comes okay.
Does it come back to the source, or does it come back to a separate?
Comes back right there.
No, so if you send the Gmail, is it coming back to you as a Gmail?
So the Gmails, everything is treated as a sort of a chat input. So what it will do is there's a Gmail trigger that every time an email is received, it goes in as a chat. But as part of that prompt for the Gmail reader, I put the prompt, you are receiving an email. Here's how you're to process it and explain it to me as the user. So I'll get a random message on my Discord that says, hey, credit card company says you paid your balance this month. Is there anything you'd like me to do for that? Like, no, thanks.
Okay,
I know
so
I paid
it's
my
coming back. It goes back to your Discord.
It goes into this. It goes into this workflow, but it comes with its own prompts. So it'll basically run a system 1. Don't do a lot of thinking. The user rephrase here, basically, it'll say, this is a Gmail message. So this entire system is just told, you're a Gmail message. What it does do that comes back, like the memory system in Supabase is kind of where, if I want to talk to it, everything is an input. PDF is an input. Emails are an input. The news, I follow news categories. And then when I come here and I say, hey, that news I was reading about the jobs report that came out today, I had a question about it. It will look in Supabase and it will do a vector search for jobs reports of every conversation I've had, and the highest match will come back. And that's just how Supabase works, not how this works. And it will say, okay, well, here's my context. And now let me do thinking, and let me see do I need to do a web search or a Perplexity search or a calendar search or a Reddit search, or you have files you call dossiers. Let me look at the files you saved, which is all that System 5 stuff. And now it's got like this. My basic idea is RAG everything. Make everything RAG. Give it as much information as possible. I kind of want to do one-shot chats. I want to ask it something and just get it all. I don't want to back and forth all the time. I can go to ChatGPT for that. I want this to kind of be an answer machine that knows my calendar, knows the emails I have, and it remembers all my emails, so it doesn't have to keep searching Google, things like that.
Okay.
But that all feeds me.
What size is your soup base right now at this point?
I think you can do, was it 100 per page? And I'm somewhere on page like 400 and some. Like it's every single conversation. I've also fed it a ton of files. So I did all those data exports from my other chatbots. So I'd kind of be lying if I said it didn't have, if that was it, because I basically took everything I've done up to with ChatGPT and the other ones. I exported that. I imported it directly into the Superbase. And then I went back to the services and deleted them because I don't really need them part of a New York Times lawsuit. So it all just lives in my database now. And anything I use, files. So for instance, I know Leo uses Obsidian. This actually reads Obsidian. Those dossiers live in my Obsidian. So I can go directly edit any of those files as markdown files. So I like it all. I like my peas and carrots kind of mushed together inside of here, and I don't like spreading them out over too many third-party services.
And you said this is running on a Mac?
Yeah, that's where we're at now.
Okay.
Yeah, we're on my Mac Mini, an older one, not the M4s. I wanted M4, but hey, money. I thought you might like some of this. I'll leave without saving. This is where the file. So I noticed you had some of those workflows. I have a thing where if I want to add to a file, the only thing that really does well, because I've tried to do diffs on this. So if you're doing links and things, like there's some, like I think there's one called Open Table that does really good spreadsheets and things like that. I often have to go into files. And so I've got to come here where like I have a personnel file, which is basically if I look up a person and I want to remember them, if I want to remember Neil deGrasse Tyson and I want his life story, this will look him up. It'll find the name that I asked for. It'll look for the file. If it finds the file, true, I found the file. Okay, we'll read the file and input that file here and then do more research and do all this. So this is in a thinking. The thinking will call this and say, okay, I have all this research. I'll take that with your existing file and I'll run a GPT 4.1, which can do 1 million tokens. It does it. Okay, make it a file, write it back to the file and tell me what was in the file. And then the chat comes back, goes, great, I have this file now. And I can go read that anytime I want. So, I've done all sorts of things with news stories. I'll hear about a fire or an earthquake. And that's why, one of them I have is called events. So if an event happens like an earthquake, I can just say, tell me everything about this. And it'll give me this nice summary, but then I can open Obsidian and just pull that file up and actually read the entire output of that file. So I'm heavy into files. I'm heavy into PDFs. So that's why mine will look a little bit different than, like too many third parties. I kind of like keeping it local, and a lot of this is very local processing in here. But yeah, this is the brain here, and you got files down here. I will say,
does anything in here also call out to your other active workflows, or is it like this is all self-contained? Okay.
No, these are workflows on workflows. So each of the tool calls is a workflow. Each of these. So I don't know why they don't.
Okay, that's what those are. Okay, yeah.
Good. Yeah, they should. So I'll give you a good instance. So let's look at the probably people would be interested. Like most people are like Reddit shut off their search. You got to be Google and pay them a license. Actually, if you're any Reddit user, you can search Reddit and you can add it right to your workflow. So if you go into here, you'll see I have my Reddit workflow for doing that. And then I don't know if I can open that up directly because it opens up another tab. So I don't want to break that. So let me go to the Reddit tool somewhere in here. I think I can do a search. That'd be easier. Here's Reddit. That's the Reddit. And so what that does is I don't know if I move this up to 5, this might be running 03, has its own memory. And what it basically does is it tells the main AI will say, I need to find this from Reddit. What this will say is another AI is going to send you a request. I want you to separately think how to best do this for Reddit, knowing the tools you have. And then it works completely separately, then fires the answer back already summarized and annotated. And I don't know if you can see, like they're kind of crossing over. It searches Reddit all, Reddit search all new, Reddit search news, Reddit search news, and on and on and on. So I just have it's searching subreddits, do a comment search. It's really good for OSINT if you want to know what's going on in the world. Like again, the earthquake example, you have a lot of people posting on Reddit. You can fire this up. You're going to get stuff before CNN. And it's not like I wasn't smart enough to figure this out. It's just you can just throw this at Reddit and it just works. And I've never hit a limit. And then when I throw that into thinking, that's the interesting thing is it looks like I have one AI or I multi-step, like do not do one or do two or do three. What it's actually doing is this AI can call this AI and call this AI and call this AI, et cetera, et cetera. So these are all AI-driven workflows. So one does a heck of a lot. And then if I do an like, let's say I want to know about Google. Let's say Google changed their name from Alphabet to Decimal. And I want to know why and all the backstory. I can do a System 3 search, which will do the deep dive, and it'll add it to my database. I then might say, hey, System 5, do an organization on Google. It'll know that, but then it will rerun with all these lines, every one of these, and it will find any new information to update that file. It'll take the old file I might already have and then add the new information. So it's just, that's sort of the static file system where it just keeps learning. And every time it adds to itself, it just kind of gets a little smarter. But it's not getting smarter in that sense. It's just getting a little more knowledge about what I'm interested in, the types of searches I do. So it's not trying to learn everything. It's just trying to learn what I want to know about. And it just makes it a lot easier. I think probably the other thing to really kind of look at with how I do the IO, because that's where you can do kind of some of the fun stuff. It's like on the Discord. Discord has a little quirkiness to it. So it checks every 30 seconds. It pulls the last message. It checks if that last message was itself, because it will get into a loop if it starts reading its own message. It then also doesn't want to keep reading my message. So I make it pop up and it just says I'm working. And by doing that, it will stop triggering. And then I check did I put a meme in? This actually, if I upload a picture, it will do one HTTP request and it will process with GPT-4o to read and work my image. The other one is if you use the CDN through Discord, it will read that and it will be told, this is a meme. Respond as though it's a joke or the comedy style. And so it's kind of weird. If I send it a meme, it'll get the screenshot of a Toy Story meme and it will respond appropriately, it's a nice little trick. It will then do the thinking that you guys just looked at. Then it goes to this one here, which is, I can show you that one, which is, I do something weird. I do the Dewey Decimal System and I do memory. Then I do an 11 Labs text to speech. So if I'm driving and I'm in Discord, I can hit the mic button, ask a question. When it comes back, there's a play button and I can listen to it with my 11 Labs voice. So I'm not reading while driving. And then it sends off the message along with the data file from there.
What kind of nodes are those? The red ones with the arrows? Like I don't.
Those are so this is kicking up. So when I was showing you guys that big thinking, this is triggering that. So it's taking the output of this module.
Oh,
here,
okay, sending it back to. Got it. Okay.
So this will sit here and it'll spin and spin and spin while thinking's work, and then it spits out a single output. And it starts going through the next one. And so instead of having that giant, workflow, I now have a dedicated input workflow. So I don't have to have that whole giant, it looks like the Star Trek Enterprise sometimes. I don't have to have that sitting in the middle of this. That's just sitting off on its own.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same thing with the memory. So the memory, I haven't worked on it much, but I have how the whole memory works is in here. And it's very simple. I just don't like having it in every single input output. So one thing I have it do is I have it look at all the inputs and outputs. And because I have so many different topics and I want the search to be better, I actually have I have the Gemini 2.5 Flash look at the content and then categorize it with a 6-digit Dewey Decimal System. So I'm like, I want to know this, and then throw that into the Supabase as one of the columns that goes in there. So technically, every time it reads it, it can also tell, because it has to split the messages up, it could tell if, like there's a Dewey Decimal System for tigers in Kenya, specifically tigers in Kenya. So if I did a search for the economy, it would actually see that there's a Dewey Decimal, which AI knows very well, and it would say, this isn't related. I pulled it, it was a high match, but that has to do with something with tigers in Kenya. Let me do another search. So I found the Dewey Decimal System is a nice old system to sort of hack better searches. And it was kind of fun to actually do, because I don't think anyone is categorizing their databases using the Dewey Decimal System. So it amused me. So what can I say? But yeah, I mean, that's really it. Everything else is, I've got a new generate image one. So I created a new Discord channel to basically do the Chat GPT, the Nano Banana. And so I have a dedicated channel. This is actually its own separate bot. And it literally just sits here to do nano bananas. It doesn't connect to anything. I will say that's the only other issue is some of these newer models, if n8n doesn't support it, and n8n does not support nano banana, you have to do a special request. And I can't even show you that because it's got my API key directly in there to actually send the request and get the correct. You get a base 64 JSON back, and you got to go into here and grab that field and then convert the base 64 into a PNG, and then it can spit back out to Discord. So yeah, there's sometimes I got to make weird stuff.
I know that Darren and Joe joined. Do you guys have any? You're just here to hang out, or do you got questions? I don't want to like.
Just to hang out, but that's awesome. Like as I keep saying, it's like you've done so much more than I've done trying to code it.
I will tell you, like, I have not learned this thing does so much more than I can even get to. Like, if you notice here, like, sorry, Anthony, you actually have to destroy these and recreate them to get the new system where you can have a fallback. You have to actually create a new one and copy your prompts over. Then you get this new one. They also have one which is a model picker. So you can have this go down to a model picker, and it looks like a switch, and you can have like 10 different models, and it will actually use this logic to basically do what I did over here. But what it'll do is it will see a message and it'll say, based on this prompt, which AI should I use?
I wouldn't even know.
Find a reason to use it though. like who does that? Like I can't even find a good reason to do that, but people do that. I thought you might like this though. This is really interesting here though, is going into these switches. Let me try to make the logic as good as possible here. And so that's basically what all these switches are.
Okay, so it's like a filter, but you could just define each one. Okay.
And it gets confusing. So you're like, okay, I got all these lines coming out. How do I name them? You can change the output names to system one. I just named them that. Just like the other one that said organizations, people, projects, all of that. That literally is just labels you put on. That way, when you're looking at the diagram, you don't get confused. You can see where the line goes. Oh, this is for talking about links from TWiT. Oh, this one's for talking about links from intelligent machines. Yeah. So this one is you can. It's an easy copy and paste, and I don't think there's going to be a speed advantage, but it basically takes that and it crunches it down here. And I'm glad they added this. Well, mine used to look like yours though, where I'd have so many if-then statements and filters sitting up to do all that.
Well, this one's more, what do you call it? Less resources. Cause like if you have like 50 items, it's not sending 50 items to each filter. It's just like, it goes through the switch then.
Yep. I think this one looks pretty much the same. Yeah. If and I literally, to get mine to choose, and I don't know how yours will work, I use the 5 in the subject matter. So this one will output, it has very simple instructions under these conditions, or if the user specifies, you are only to answer 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. I don't call it people. I just go with the straight numbers. I find that Gemini 2.5 Flash is probably I've tried other smaller models. It's probably the best one for doing AI as logic. So, I mean, normally you'd program and say, if the string contains person, people, persons, then, output 1. This is you're basically saying, hey, AI, why don't you just be the program for me? You look at it with this criteria and you tell me 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5. And so I found that using the AI for logic, even in a workflow where you don't need AI, you don't need chat, you don't need anything else, but you want it to make some decisions instead of sitting here and, gosh, I've worked on this Python script for 3 months where I vibe coded this. I could just tell it what I want and make an AI do it. And I found that more useful than any chatbot is just making this a programmable switch. It's kind of like hiring a human to sit at the train station and just manually make that track switch back and forth. Like, yeah, you could put in electronics, or you can hire Bob, and Bob can just sit there, and when he sees a train coming that's yellow, he goes left, and when it's blue, he goes right. Like that's kind of what it's doing right there. This is this does that right there. It does the same thing. The only difference with this one is it puts its decision as a variable. And the reason is I had to have the variable last because it broke some of the flow. So I had to put it back one. But I always have a 2.5 flash and then a switch. And it rarely breaks. I will say sometimes it does things I don't want. For instance, I might want to ask a question for a lot of research, and I don't put in what system I want, and it decides I'm going to system 1. And I go back and I say, system 3, answer the same question. And it goes through it again and says, oh, well, okay, I'll do system 3. So I put in some, if the user is explicit, do the explicit. Like for system 5, I don't even let it pick system 5 unless I explicitly tell it. I don't want to go in and writing files every time I chat to it. So I have to tell it system 5. But you can do the same thing with Google News. The thing I like about Google News is I don't need an API. I can put in my search terms, and then I can run that through a filter. I can grab headlines, and et cetera, for my groups. But then what I also have it do is I will have an AI read the headline, and it will have the same criteria. So let me actually pull up a little bit of what I have in the, I just put it right into IO, which is kind of like your workflow where you're talking about how you have, different links and things go in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do notes, so I have a very bad, oh, here it is. Is that one of them? Where's my other Reddit? That actually might just be it. And this looks crazy, except for the, no, here it is. It's this one here. This does roughly 20 topics, and it does them all separately. And the reason that this works, and this is a little trick I found, if you go in here and in the trigger or in the fields, if you make a either you can use a matrix, but as long as you're using some form of comma delimited list, and you can use any form of list that you want, you can break that list up and then have it run one object at a time. So instead of putting in 20 URLs, you put all those 20 URLs in a list, and then you have it split out and run them separately. So you only have to make one workflow instead of 20 workflows. And then, of course, I have it go through filters and limiters and then pop out only what I want. But then I can take any of those, and what I used to have when it was just costing me tokens is I can have it read the headline of every story and say, look at my memory. Did I actually want to read this story? And it will just, I can have, Gemini 2.5 Flash also go, yeah, he doesn't want to read that. He doesn't want to, yeah, he wants to read that, and kind of add that. I was spending so much on tokens. I was like, you know what? I can do that. I can just show me all the news. I can figure out what I want to read. But yeah, using those lists was a nice little trick I picked up from the n8n forums. And I'm like, oh, I can get rid of like 30 boxes by just making these 2 boxes. And all I've got to do is make an array. I just throw them all in an array. And then inside the RSS feed is the base URL up to the question mark. And then all the search terms are sitting in here as an array, and it splits out all the search terms and inputs them as $JSON.output. And it just keeps running till it goes through the entire array. And that's it. Yeah, that was a big space saver for me.
I may want to go back and because there's probably a lot of people who haven't touched this before.
Sure.
And just think about the simple things like, how do you version control, or how do you manage this? So you're going to, obviously you created that great one over pieces of time, and maybe explain how you do the pieces, how you store it, because obviously if you make a mistake, you want to go back. And then how do you experiment? So let's get actually down to the basics, because it's such a wild thing. And I know I'm just cracking up because writing this in Python would take me God knows how long, even if I vibe coded it.
I did that before. That's what this was born from. Is I used to have Anarule used to be sitting in VS Code, and I would drop. I originally used it for research papers because I wanted to get quick summaries to go through thousands of papers and pick out the ones I want. So I'm dropping in 300-page papers, and I'm having O1 at the time burn through all of those. And so this is where that was born from, and it was very, very slow.
Well, I have something called daily.py that's running on my system that has a ton of functionality that I do for myself on a daily basis, and it'd be interesting to see how to convert it to something like this.
Yeah, I was going to say that what strikes me as best, because obviously I've got lots of stuff in Python, and there's even a couple of workflow tools I'm using, but the thing that really is difficult to do on your own system is all these triggers that you've put in, because you sort of need a program for each of them polling things and checking for things. So that's what I'm looking at this and learning and thinking maybe I need n8n just for the set of triggers, just to be kicking stuff off.
For you guys, I think you're going to like two things. I don't use it a lot, but you guys probably would use it a lot more. Mm-hmm. So I've opened up a code block. It's native JavaScript. It does run Python. We all know that Python is useful, but more useful with the libraries. You wouldn't expect that support here. One thing that you can do, which I'm going to try, let me see if I can have an old, I wonder if I have a copy of it. I think it's let me see if it's in my files. Yeah, I was playing around with one of these. Does it have, no, it's a different one. Let me try that again. So one thing you can do that's a good local trigger is right here. Okay, here's a test. There's an execute command that will run locally. Now, the caveat is, if you're running hosted, you're in the hosted. If you're running this in a Docker, it's only running commands in the Docker. The reason I run it native is I need it to read hot folders to monitor for file drops, and I want to be able to run local commands. So in here, like I'll just add a fresh one. You can put anything. And kind of to blow your mind, yes, you could run your Pythons right from here. You could run your Apple script right from here. You could run anything you have, or even trigger a curl to trigger another something else. One of the interesting things I found, if you really want to get wild and crazy, and if you want a chat bot that just does, you're at the beach and you want to be able to send a Discord message, and you just want to delete every file with the number 1 in it, or you want to delete all the text files on your system. You can put Claude Code or Codex from OpenAI in here, and you can run the local command line agent from here as well. So you could even trigger an onboard AI. One of the things I like in here that I thought about doing was Apple is trying to make Apple scripts smarter, where you can trigger the local AI to do a few things. And some of those actually seem useful. They don't seem useless like a lot of the tools often do. Those can be triggered from the command line. And so I can just issue a command here, like, when I do the dossier search, and I don't want to show it because my name is literally in the path. It's the only reason I'm not opening up that one. What it does is it goes into a folder and it runs I don't let it run Claude Code or anything because, again, tokens. But what I do have is I have a bash script, and its job is to take my search terms, grep for files in the way that I want them grepped, and then also count the number of returns per file and only return the file with the most matches. So when it does a dossier search, it's not doing a file name search. It's actually looking for the information in different forms. The only thing that I do let the AI do is, before it sends the command, it knows what to search for, and it will give all the permutations of what it might be called, so that it can run that bash script over different phrases. And I think I let it do 5 different phrases for how it might be worded. And it just goes in, it does a grep, I do regex, and it runs what I want to run. I do that all from here. Like, I like escaping n8n because it's way more powerful if you're just like, this is fun, and I like the tools they give, but I want the ability to do my own thing. And this execute basically says, I can just escape out of n8n and do what I want. I've got, obviously, like, the warning here is, if you don't know programming, don't mess with this. Like, you're probably going to wipe your system. You're probably going to put it in a public Discord, and someone's going to send an rm-rf command and wipe your system out. Like, you got to know some computer IT methodology. You got to know your command line if you're going to run command line. You need to know a little programming. Like, the modules make sense if you're a programmer. That might not make so much sense if you're using a Dreamweaver to make websites. This is on that level, but Dreamweaver works better if you know HTML. This works better if you know the code, what the code's going to do and how it should run and when loops should be there and things like that. So I think the execute command is super powerful. You can get into trouble, though. I'll show you trouble right now. I execute. I turn off execute once. I want it to retry on fail. I want it to retry 99 times. I want it to continue on workflows. just keep running. And suddenly I get loops, or I would never do this, but you could run loops. And it's going to run that command 1,000 times, 2,000 times, as long as this sub keeps getting hit. And it doesn't matter if there's commands or not. If I tell it that I want to delete every file with an X in it, thinking I'm meaning .text, well, that could be .exe if you're running this on a Windows system. So I mean, like you can do some real damage here. But this is that breakout. I don't want to have to rewrite my Python. I like n8n. I want to use it, but I'm not rewriting the 500 scripts I've been working on for the last 10 years. Just call them from here. I mean, yeah, you're kind of using this like a cron job, but on the other hand, the things that I don't do that you could also do is you can have these build their own system. So in here, there are n8n commands you could run. So you might have templates and you want to spin things up in a certain way. Like you could get super automated with this that you can't really do with like as far as I know, you can't if this then that, other if this then that commands. Like they can't replicate themselves. Here you could actually set that up and do that. So I mean, there are some power tools in here that I don't think people really get into, some of the actions in the apps, some of the workflows. Like a lot of people don't get into how much logic really sits in here. And there's, it's showing the popular ones, but there's actually like a list of 30 of these things that just do all sorts of stuff to data that, like I said, you really can get into the weeds. You can do stuff on the system. You can do pure HTTP calls. Like you're not limited like I did with the image generation. So it's kind of how deep you want to go is kind of, you can do whatever you want, basically. Like if you can at least install the program, you can get this to work. I mean, honestly, if I set a command to open a web page, I could have this thing remotely open up the browser and go to a web page to check in or something. Like if that's what your command was to do here, well, you could send that from the beach and just, telegram yourself or email yourself and say, yeah, my boss is watching. They've got the remote software. I need this to go to my work homepage right now. And you just have something that catches that command and goes and does that. Like, I mean, the sky's kind of the limit once you can run the command line. So,
I'm playing like, I don't code or anything or program, but like, I mean, I've been using I've been trying to like vibe code my way through it, but one is here. Let me just show it real quick.
Yeah.
But Anthony, you say this, but this is programming. It's just a
yeah, but
different sort of programming.
I definitely need.
Well, the earlier conversation we're talking about like Turtle and Alice and Allo and the other kind of tools that predated this years and years ago. We're dating ourselves with some of those terms, but.
So like I had the idea. So like a lot of these AI transcription tools for podcasting now, they could like, it's easy to like come up with a chapter list, right? Of topics. So like my idea was that an editor could, so like there's a form node they could, kick off a workflow with where it's, basically you upload an MP3 and then there's a text field here where this has timestamps. So then basically you just list all the timestamps, it's like 00. You could kind of see there where it's like, there's like a time dash topic. And then like on each line, there'd be a new time. So the editor would do that. And then, basically parsing that data. And so, on this instance, like I've installed something called, FFmpeg. And the idea is that it would like, take that text and then, hard encode the timestamps into like, so on MP3s there's something called ID3 tags, and you could have chapter markers and stuff like that. So the end goal here is basically with a form, an editor could upload an MP3 with a list of times, then that would get encoded and then like kick that back out into Google Drive and then, notify us in Slack, but not working yet. But yeah, like you can see, like I do have one of the execute command things in here.
I also like the fact that you're commenting with the boxes and stuff. That's good.
I asked, so like Claude's been managing this one. It's like, can you just help me out here and kind of let me know what's going on? I think I could get. I think last time I tested, I got I forgot where it got stuck. I think I was on the output, but anyways, yeah, cool stuff. You guys have any questions?
Your comment game in the notes, I sorely need to do that, because you can see where sometimes I'm like, what am I looking at? Oh yeah, I remember what I'm looking at.
Yeah,
you can do some simple. I was going to just show you.
But you should just if you I bet if you just took that JSON, copied your workflow and kicked it out to Claude and say, hey, can you just write some?
Well, that's a good question too. Someone asked, they said, well, what do I do? What do I do with version control and things like that? I do something a little different. So because I'm running out of npm, I have a bash script that basically is running updates, and I make those updates run. But when I do that, I make it do backups. So I take the .n8n folder. I do time state every time that I run updates, because I've actually lost, I think, 4 days worth of work. I ran an update, and for some reason my database went back 4 days, and I lost 4 days worth of work. So what I do now is I make it run a date time-stamped backup before I do any updates. But you're absolutely right. If you select all of this stuff here and you just copy it, you can paste it, and that's just JSON. It just fires that out in anything you want. So
I think the 3 dots at the top, right? You could just say, download.
Oh yeah, and you can do.
Yeah.
Let me see. Sorry, I was in the video screen. Yeah, you can download, duplicate. Yeah.
What I would suggest, if it's just an n8n directory, is just put that under Git. And
it's weird that you would think that they would be that simple. It's a SQLite database, so when you copy out of here, it's JSON. But when they save it, it's a SQLite database. You can technically install this with a Postgres SQL, and then you could run, you can just look at the database yourself. If somebody wanted basic, I've done this before. I've gone back here and look at this monster. If I lost this, it's going to take me forever. I could just copy all, and I wish I had better backups than this, because it's not Git, but I can throw that into an Obsidian and just say, blah, here you go. And if I run into something, I've not had as good as luck as you though, Anthony. I've tried, I'm like, okay, this is JSON. This is going to be really cool why can't I put this into Claude or ChatGPT? Let's put this in Cursor and vibe code it. It kind of sucked. I tried to teach it. I'm like, here's what would you do? And then I paste its output back in. And I've got nodes that don't even exist that it hallucinated.
No,
existed.
No.
I've tried.
Yeah.
I didn't have
think,
luck.
if you built a particular project that had more documentation on how n8n works, you might be able to. But I definitely run into problems.
I will say, if you run the updates, they update very fast. I don't even know if I've gotten new things, and they're actually making the community version better. So one of the things I've noticed is this used to limit what you could run. They're starting to change that so you can have unlimited active. With my process, I only need a few that are active. If it's a workflow you're calling, you don't need it to be active. So you can't share credentials outside of yourself. So all of your credentials live in here. So there are a few limitations, but if you're just a regular person, I'm implementing n8n at work. And the reason I'm doing that is not because we're not able to program, but we have tasks that kick off everywhere. Whether it's a Windows task, we have actual cron jobs that take off. But sometimes we just need something done that is not going to be admin, or we need a hot folder, and we're short on servers. There are some places where it's not even super critical, and I can draw the boxes in 5 minutes, or I can have someone take a month and try to make the Python just right. We'll do the Python when it matters. If it's reports, or it's something critical, or it's budget related, we're going to take the time. But if I just need if I need a chat bot that anyone in my agency can just put a URL in, and they get a branded QR code out, I'm going to throw this at it. I'm not wasting programming time, but I can make all these neat little tools really fast for them. And then, we can also do connectors. The other thing that's really good for is a lot of stuff, like if you're using Zapier, you have to use what they have to go from one to go to another, but you still have some of the same tools. But I think a lot of people use Zapier, and that because, this tool doesn't support this other tool, but you want the two things to talk to each other. Like you can't just connect your Gmail to your Google Docs, for your Google Sheets. Like every time I get an email, why can't Google just know to put in an entry because it was from this customer? And, you can throw something like this in. And the good thing about this is I can make this a common login. So I can give this to an entire department and say, hey, here's your workflow. Here's where you add, just click this box. You'll see a list of emails. Change those emails as you want. It'll just change working. Just don't delete anything. And I've got a backup, so it's one of those things where I can even the normies, I can give them a URL and just say, go to the URL. Here's the login, make the change. They can't do any harm. Most of those I have it sitting in a Docker anyway, so they can't run anything. They can't really do anything, but they got this basic tool and it makes it easy. So
I will, I guess we should mention though, with the credentials, it's a little bit more complicated if you're hosting yourself or if you're not running n8n's version, right? Because you need to do a bunch of OAuth stuff, but there's documentation out there and it could walk you through it. But
their documentation is actually really good for Google as well. So doing a Google OAuth is just a PITA. And you can actually click, it's you actually go to this URL, enter this, go to this, enter this, and then take these two fields and put it back in and you're done. I will say Discord wasn't bad. Telegram was super weird. You've got to talk to a bot personality. Some of these are just goofy. I looked at WhatsApp. I took 5 whole seconds and I looked at Facebook's documentation and I said, to hell with this. I'm not even attempting whatever weirdness you've got for WhatsApp.
I have tried so hard to talk to WhatsApp. It seems to be, unless you're a business, they seem to have made an effort to make it completely unscriptable. That's why I use Discord. And some things I would, in Australia, WhatsApp is just the standard way of doing messaging, every group, every school, everything. But I just cannot script it much as I could.
I've done weird stuff on here. I was like, okay, what else could I add? So I don't know if you guys use the decentralized matrix. This thing I have it deactivated, but I have a matrix bot. You can pop about anything that they've got a trigger for. WhatsApp is not one of those things because I'm like, hey, I can just put my bot everywhere and use whatever I want. And then if I think something's a little more of a security risk, I just turn the workflow off and don't touch it anymore. But yeah, WhatsApp is not even a consideration for me at this point. It was just such a pain.
Going back to your your big 8, your thinking workflow. I don't know if you've been part of these conversations that I've had on Discord, but I've had this concept of basically an AI Leo for the Discord. We have an AI Leo on Discord, but it's just a stupid chat character. But the end goal would be a character we could pull on a show, and it sees all the Discord, and also we would get all the real-time transcripts from our Zoom meetings from the shows.
Yeah.
And, we'd I'd use Supabase and stuff like that. So it could kind of keep context.
Mm-hmm.
But how would this handle, would a trigger be each new, let's say if I could come up with a unified real-time chat in, let's say it's a Discord channel where it's it gets all everyone's message in Discord, and also anytime anyone says something in Zoom, it shows up in there. Would that what happens when you start hammering a trigger event on something this complicated?
Good news. Discord does not have a good trigger. It does, but you have to, it's one of those where you have to @it. I have mine, I got tired of adding. I'm on a server. It's literally me, my wife, and the bot. It's just where I put things. And I originally used it because I wanted somewhere to put the Midjourney bot. So I just made it, and I made a couple rooms where I'd make funny pictures and whatnot. And I've otherwise not used. I got tired of adding it. I did have it @ me back, so I put my own name. I also did have it where I could put in personality, into the personality. I could add names. So whether I was talking to it or my son talked to it or my wife talked to it, it would know who it's talking to, and it would do the search a little bit differently. Really challenging in this workflow, but the first thing that I think of when I'm thinking of, I want it to listen to everybody, is the time triggers. So if I go back, kind of thinking at it from an input output, if I go up here, mine's a 30-second. And the reason I do a 30-second is if I go any faster, it will start talking over itself. So I want it to wait long enough that it won't read my message twice, that it has a chance to actually run and put up a stopper. But also I want it to reasonably respond to me. I don't want to wait 2 minutes between, 30 seconds is quite a long wait, but I usually put in big requests, so it's not too bad. So that's that's the only problem you would run into, is whether or not you need to add it. If you do the unless there's something else I don't know about how that works, you cannot read other messages. You can only read the trigger message. So if I @AI Leo, it will only see that. It will never see anyone else's messages unless they add it. If you want to read all of them the way I do, then it's a timer. And in here, I tell mine, read the last one message. You could have it where, let's say you wanted it to kind of comment just every 10 minutes. Why doesn't AI Leo just kind of speak up and have a comment about the way the conversation is going? You could set that to trigger every 10 minutes, and then you tell it, hey, read the last 500 messages. And then I would do a couple workflow things. I'd say, determine the top 5 general topics and which one's most current. Maybe recognize someone who's being just funny all the time, or someone who's got a good point, or somebody shares a news story. You could even have, let's say, like for instance, Scooter X posts a story and it's related to the topic. It could actually go out, quickly read that story, and then have a comment about it and say, that really fits in with what everyone's talking about. So you could, if you didn't treat it as a trigger and they're not talking to AI Leo, you could treat it as a transcript. And so in these increments, you're feeding it a transcript, and you kind of how you're going to pick that apart. I don't know how you can get the best of both worlds with other than just 2 triggers, where you have one trigger for adding it and it just replies, and another trigger that's sort of timed to go off. The only thing, it would be nice if Discord, you could do keywords. If maybe there's certain topics, like every time AI comes up, you could, be funny every time someone mentions AI, AI Leo's like, oh, here we go again talking about me. If you were doing something like that,
yeah,
that might be a little more difficult. I don't think it wouldn't be hard to program. So forget my thinking. You're going to probably do a lot of just pre-processing, and really you can throw it into some pretty quick models to do a very, I can't understate how decent, I won't say good, how decent the 2.5 Flash is. One of the first system ones I had was, I said, sometimes I just want a really quick update. I don't even need a tool call. Just give me the fastest reply for a question, maybe throw it, a conversation. Like I just need a quick reply. Flash was great for that. It won't have the context for more than maybe 200 messages. I don't even know if you go back that far. I will say, you'll notice if I go to my thinking, and this is not an n8n limitation, this is just a model limitation. I know this has come up in a couple discussions. Simple memory. In the simple memory, I don't even know if I've got it. Yeah. This is for the entire AI, no matter what I do. If I go over that number 20, that will, regardless of whether I use Claude, regardless of whether I use ChatGPT or Grok even, I've even tested Grok 3. No matter what AI you put in here, once you hit context over 20, that thing will disintegrate into chaos and psychosis like you've never seen in your life. And what they mostly do in the chatbots is they cut out either the middle of the conversation, and so it will remember what you first said, but it will start forgetting things in the middle, and it will remember the last thing you said, but it will keep cutting down, or it will cut from the top and only remember the last few things. You'll notice which method they use, because you'll be coding along in the chat, and suddenly it's just like, it's wandered over to this other topic, and it's like, no, I'm working on this project. What are you talking about? that's because they've been cutting off the top because it's losing coherence. So I don't know how far you could go back on Discord, to be fair.
You could do a similar thing. I mean, there's a couple of things you could do. What Claude Code does is it does what it's called the compressing step, which is when the context gets too big, it just basically calls itself and says, give me a summary of all the important things that are that I need to go and the continuity. So it's intelligently deciding what to throw out and what to keep. Now, in terms of the Discord, what you said is correct. And a regular polling cycle can do it, but you can still you can still have the concept of unique new messages just by saying, comparing to the last time you polled. Like if you say, get me the last 100 messages, and then you go to a step where you say, compare to the previous last 100 messages and throw out any messages that are the same. You've got a concept of, now I've got a feed for any new messages. And so then with the new messages, you can decide either you probably decide both to add them to your memory. And you've got a biographer or something that's keeping track of people, but you're also deciding whether this is interesting enough to react to. And what would really is, and this is where I'm not sure how you do this sort of thing in n8n, is you really want to join up multiple triggers, because in the perfect world, and what Anthony's end goal requires, is you need both the Discord as input, but you also need the transcript, like an ongoing transcript of what the hosts are talking about, because it needs to be able to understand when the conversation is relevant to what's been talked about, but also when it's not, and so on.
So yeah, I'm just making a quick one here. You could combine those. I think Anthony actually already does that. He does it well. I'm not so good at it. It confuses me, so my brain kind of breaks when I do those things because I don't know what. But you're exactly right that you could have multiple triggers. I actually could even see how it broke it. I connected it wrong. That should actually go to here. So you could have a Discord time trigger plus an app trigger, and they would both be. The only thing you got to be careful on is when you're processing. You can't ever call it by its name. So if I call the $telegram.output, it won't exist in the rest of this break. So I would add a variable collector, just like I had the IO inputs, and just have a step where it says, okay, if this output, put it in here, but if this one, put it in the same one. So you just have an output variable and it doesn't care what happened here. The other thing you could do is you could stop here and literally run it as a sub. And if you're running it as a sub, it doesn't care where it came from. It just says, I have an input. I do things with input. And so that's another way you could do exactly that. You made me think of something, though. I don't know how many of you guys are on Legcord. I don't use the Discord I do on the mobile, but on the desktop, I use Legcord. And Legcord lets you turn on the beta version of the AI summaries, which is there's a Discord beta feature that in every chat, it has a drop-down summarize. And so Discord's actually running that also, that it will summarize chunks. And so, they're doing it natively. So I don't know what problem you would run into at all doing that compression. That's probably a smarter idea.
Yeah, I'm wondering how scalable getting the video feed would be in if you've got, as I said, the host has got a conversation going on.
Well,
unless you're going to get just a text in it.
You can get
time.
Zoom has its own real-time transcripts, and there's ways to who's that? Got someone joining, Travis?
Yeah.
Hello.
Hey. Yeah, so initially I was thinking I would just make another basically I could use a bot to basically mirror the Discord live chat in a new chat room that's a unified chat, and then also another bot where it's just anytime there's a new a new line in Zoom that goes into the chat too, so everything's in line in time with the names and everything, and then I'd figure out how to wrap AI around that. But that's just
It sounds like if you were malicious, you would Mystery Science Theater 3000 the live stream. Like
Yeah.
you really could do quite a bit with that. That would be interesting.
Yeah, like so, like then I was thinking like, oh, there would be an agent that like it'd have the like kind of instructions to be like, you don't always need to have it like to say something, but periodically, if you feel like either someone's calling you out or like there's something you want to talk about, like just mention something. But yeah, this is all like just brainstorming. I haven't really looked into any of this.
No, I think
I didn't want to like get derailed on AI Leo, but
you really got me thinking though. Like the thing that n8n is good at that regular programming would not be good at is you'd have to get all the libraries, you'd have to get all the APIs, you'd have to get everything working just to get the inputs. Even if you weren't using it as the main tool, getting all of the triggers you want and all feeding in the same direction is kind of one of the strong suits. So I'd probably just start there. Kind of doing pseudocode, even if you don't know what you're going to do with the Discord. I would just start lining those up as the inputs and having the notes and just saying, do I need a time trigger? Do I need this? Do I need this? Do I need this? Because I've often done, like, I didn't know what to do here. Like, I'm thinking, how do I, without using AI, tell the difference between a meme and if I send a picture of a nasty text I got and I'm like, were they being nasty or am I just reading it wrong? Like, how would the AI know the difference? And I just kept poking around until I figured out, oh yeah, Discord uses two different URLs. One comes from the CDN, another one comes from, I can't remember where that goes to. I mean, I think I can actually pull up I don't even know. It also depends on where it's coming from. So it will actually put it in the Discord output in a different location. So, I mean, sometimes just putting in the placeholder for what you want and you start building out a little logic to get a bit of it working. At some point, you notice they dovetail, and they just, it starts coming together. And suddenly it's like, okay, I've got 5 of my 7 triggers working, and at least you get going. And that's one of the things I like. For me, n8n is like, it's like live prototyping. I can make a change, test out real quick, and then quickly revert it if I don't want it. So I think I would just start. I mean, that'd probably be what I tell anybody that's not used n8n too. Like, the best way to do it is just start. Like, I don't know what to do with this. What would I do? I was like, well, okay, well, what if you just made a Gmail trigger, learn how to do the OAuth. You don't need to do any AI, and all you wanted it to do was, I want my Gmail to be sent, as a phone message, and on my work phone. And my work phone doesn't have Gmail on it, but I am allowed to install something like just simple stuff that does. I want it to come into A and I want it to go out to B, and you can figure the messy stuff in the middle later. Like that's the hard stuff. I don't think you'd have to really, like in that case, the hard stuff isn't going to be getting the info. The hard stuff, I will say, if you use Supabase, you're going to want to turn on row locking, because it's going to be a public database. Most people don't know that, so lock her down. Otherwise, they're going to read everything. But number 2, getting the data is easy. Getting the data out is easy. Tuning it in so it A, doesn't crash, B, doesn't go psychotic, and C, is consistent. I found a lot of times, especially GPT-5 is horrible at this. It's very good at following instructions, but what it likes to do sometimes, instead of answering, it'll go through and it'll say, I should follow the instructions this way. Kind of like the old, and I'm like, I know I wrote that instruction to you. Why are you telling me? Like, that's what I asked you to do. I think manipulating the data is going to be much harder, because with that amount of volume,
yeah,
you're gonna want to do things in the middle, like you said, just summarizing, or just don't even summarize. Like, if the transcript is going this way for the past 5 minutes, just tell me the topic. Just tell me, what is the topic the hosts are talking about. Are we talking about OpenAI? Are we talking about Microsoft? Are we talking about freedom of the press? Just give me the topic, or also tell me, like, who is the main speaker right now? Is it the guest? Is it Leo? Is it someone else? And that might help. Like, you could steer it by trying to crunch as small as possible, because I think that's your messy parts in the middle. Like, it's goo. You're making this all with putty. It's AI and wishes and dreams, and it doesn't hold together. But, like, you look at my thinking. I mean, it's a monster, and that's just half of the stuff is just to keep it on track. The promise of AI companies is you will get one chatbot that will just do this for you, And this is this diagram is saying, no, it does not. Doesn't work that way at all.
Yeah. Well,
Can I ask a dumb question? Because I am a dummy. So I came in late to this, so I missed the very beginning. So this tool, is it fair to say that this is essentially a far more advanced if this then that type of thing? You can use it that way. So even somebody like me who codes
You definitely could.
nothing.
You could start
and
small.
knows nothing.
Like you,
okay.
like
Because
like,
honestly,
are
I'll tell you the
familiar
thing I thought of to use this for. No AI, because I don't know anything about it. But if I wanted to build a search where I said, okay, here's a German expressionistic horror film from 1938 that is not available anywhere. I want you to check every week and tell me if it suddenly pops up somewhere, either to buy or streaming or whatever. This could do that, right?
Yeah, I would actually. I even tell you the tool to do it. I would use the Reddit. I'd build a little Reddit. I'd also use Exa. Exa is basically, unless you have the Google API, you could do a Google search, but you could also just reach out to an independent search, do that every week. You could do a Perplexity if you still use that. Yeah, you could. That's exactly what you could do. Or let's say you liked. I'll give you a good example. One of the things my wife used to do is she used to do shows for, people would go to signings and things like that. So she liked to keep up on people. So if she ever wants to hear if something is happened, like she, we are very big fans of like the Clerks universe, and Kevin Smith. So if anything ever happened and we wanted all the news, this is something where you could say, okay, I want you to go through the news, but only if you see the keyword died, do I want to hear from you? You can check every single day, but anytime that we see Kevin Smith in the same sentence as died, we want to know immediately. So you could have just a trigger that does that. I mean, you could keep it very small. I would say for me, and you guys tell me if you use, there's a reason I went to n8n, and yeah, it's great that it does all these tools, but the other reason is I tried this with Zapier and the If This and That, and also Pipe Dream and a couple others. And the problem was, if I wanted it to do anything useful, it cost money, and I also couldn't host it. I run the snot out of this. I don't pay a dime. I love the company. Now I want to give them money, but I don't pay a dime. I can run as often as I want. I can plug in any tools I want. It's not, you get 1,000 free clicks, steps, runs per month. I can just do whatever I want. The downside is I host this. If I got ngrok to make it work on some other services, I've been at work and my power just glitched it at home. My bot's gone until I get home and turn it back on. I've actually got a battery backup just for that reason now. But yeah, then you're falling into, you got to maintain this thing on your own. If this gets hacked, like I'm running this locally, I will be hacked. So I'm very careful about where I search and what I allow it to do.
Deep ties into a lot of your stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I don't blame anyone, but if I was going to even pay them or anyone else, I would at least throw this thing up in a Docker. I do it for specific reasons for folders, but I started off in a Docker, and then I really wanted my folders, and I'm like, okay, the heck with Dockers. I'm putting this thing, like let's do it live. Right. But yeah, you throw this in a Docker. I mean, as long as Docker can be hacked as well, like they have 0 days as well. But I mean, you could throw this on a spare machine. Like I said, I'm running this on an M2 Mini, and it actually ran fine, I think, on 500 megabytes of memory. Like, this isn't doing anything. This is running JavaScript. It's not running the AI. It's not doing big processing. It's super lean. I like how they do it super lean. So, I mean, I'm curious who could throw this on a Raspberry Pi, to be honest. This would be a killer. I want to do home automation. That's my next trick on this, is I want to plug this into Home Assistant. And I don't care if it's from Apple, Google, whoever. I want to get into a big ecosystem and just run everything from here, because that just
Raspberry Pi is actually what I was thinking about, because my use would be so minimal, literally text files and just send me a notification. There would be nothing of Gmail, nothing that would require anything advanced, because I just don't need it. But the automation of just, okay, I'm going to plug a name into this text file. If you see this movie pop up, I want to know, because I want to watch it. That's.
I mean, you just have it like run every, like, I mean, depending on how often you want to know, but like, yeah, once a day or
once a week. I do it once a week.
Yeah,
because I can't watch that many movies. I wish I could, but I cannot watch that many movies. So once a week is plenty for me. But that's
so. I posted in the chat. There's a link to their categories. They actually have pre-made or templates that you can leverage, And you may even want to start with one of those and go from there. Because that's what I did when I was looking at it. It's like, okay, just drag a template in. You're not doing any coding, and you're just throwing stuff on top of it and see where it goes.
Well, that's the other thing I like is how visual this is, because this is how I can work with things. I can't read code, but I can put blocks in a line.
This is code. Yeah. It's just a different sort of code, but yeah, everybody can code.
This looks impressive. This is actually just a couple simple steps done over quite a bit. Like you'll notice
so many steps to me. I'm like my brain is starting to melt out of one of my ears looking at this thing.
This box is the same as this box, is the same as this box, is the same as this box. Like I just needed them in different workflows.
That to me, I'm like,
what?
And the great thing, like I don't, like I said, I'm not a coder or anything. So like, what's great now, like that we do have, ChatGPT and Claude is like, so everything in here is, it's JSON and JavaScript. And if you're confused, you just ask, how do I make this string? I need like the whole thing where it's like, okay, filter nothing older than a day. Like, I didn't know like what to write. I asked ChatGPT and it's like, oh yeah, just drop this in here.
Oh yeah. Let me this is as simple as it gets. So like a tool call, input search items, 3 pages will be sent back. That's the tool. There's the call to run. And then I can actually, let me go over that. Like the parts that look complicated that are not, if I go over down to, so the X is the web search. That's it. And this is literally, I don't know if I probably don't. Let's test it. Let's see if I have an API key. Nope, no API key. There's the JavaScript. That is the beginning. It actually sends back 5 results. I lied to the other AI. It's not 3. That's it. That's it. That basically gives you a chatbot that can also do web searches with another AI and sends it back. And it's this kind of thing is no code. Like luckily they have an X add-on. For the things that don't, you're looking at an HTTP query. And you're just basically, the other thing, like if you do an HTTP query, you can do a curl. So if let's say you look up a service and you've got, we'll do one. Like I'm not going to look one up, but I'll just say how simple that is. Let's say I don't know how any of this works. What do I put in here? What queries do I need? Well, the service tells me that I need this URL. Great. I'm going to input the curl command and it will just do it. Like you can kind of just throw things at it and it will catch quite a few of those without the code. So if you're like you said, you just like, I'm good with boxes, I'm good visual. There's a few things you got to play with in here, but none of this is like, great, now drop into the Apache config file and make this change. You're not really doing any of that kind of thing in here.
Good.
I'm looking at what you guys just said, and a few weeks ago on MacBreak Weekly, Andy and Akko mentioned ESP32 devices, and I looked them up, and I sort of went into a bit of a rabbit hole. I'm wondering if I can just put n8n on these things and just have them floating around. I'd like put it like a little UI driven by that.
It just runs on NPM, so it should run on that, because I have tools for my Tesla that I connect my Raspberry Pi to the Tesla that's running on it. It's probably more intensive than this.
So 500 megs of RAM. I mean, if you, I will say this, it will not make editing fun because it's still got to run this web server. So your editing at 500 megs will be slow, especially when it's busy. But once I close this out, it's just going to sit there and chug away. I never interact with this thing. I did make one thing that made it easier because I needed the ngrok. I did vibe code a start script that will start the ngrok, grab the URL, set the environment variable, and then start n8n. So I don't have to keep re-putting in an environment variable for the ngrok. But that's it.
So this goes back to the question. Can I export this so I can build it on my Mac, export it, and then import it on the Raspberry Pi? So this way you're not editing on the Raspberry Pi. That's the way to do that. Because again, you said 500 megs. This will be difficult. But running,
you'd have to except for your credentials, you have to reconnect all those, right?
Yeah, you'll. I don't know if the export in this form that like you can get the JSON out. I don't know if you get the credentials that way. Like I don't think all of the credentials will come over. That's kind of a warning they always tell everyone too. Is like you were absolutely right. You can go to the n8n website and there's tons of community. One of the early mistakes with n8n was people would post, "Hey, I made this. Look at this. I made this great work view. Let me share this to you." Oh crap, there's all my API keys to all of my bots because it did include them. So I think they've been trying to cut down on that.
It's the same in code. Like I always say, you know, if we're using code at work, it's always credentials are in the AWS param store. If you're using it at home, you pick a method, and I use keyring or something, but you never want your credentials anywhere near the code because it's so frigging easy to check in a bunch of code and accidentally put a credential in. So I think it's important that credentials are always separated and that you maintain credentials by hand. So.
Well, and I don't even know if we didn't even get time to go into some of the things like if you're working with it. Like I pretty much live in execution. Something will go wrong. And in here, all of the runs, I don't do the IO because it runs every 30 seconds, but I can see the last run. So just kind of like you get all the lines. If I click, I'm not going to because I probably had a private message in there, but if you click in there, it will show you what was the input, what was the output, what was the input, what was the decision, what was this. I can go all the way to the end. I can even see what it sent me. And then I can do the same with the IO. And then the other cool thing is if you're like, okay, something broke, but I need to edit, you can't edit in here. If I click copy to editor, it will pin all of those values, throw them back in the editor, turn them purple. Like I've got some here purple. That value, now I can test. And I actually know why this happened. Everything worked, but I didn't get a response. And I figured out why, because I had something weird go on. So I ran a test and I pinned everything. And I said, okay, and I just went back to the beginning. And I just said, just keep running it. It's a sub workflow, but it's already pinned. So I can just click run. And I'm actually over here. I'm not reusing all my AI tokens to rerun. I don't need to work this. This is set. This works. This is great. Pin it. You can press the letter P. It'll pin it. And then I can just sit here and I keep clicking play and then go back in, change a variable, click play. And you can do that. Once it works, tap the letter P. It's saved. Move on to your next module. You can literally some of my runs take 5 minutes to run and can cost me like 20 cents, which doesn't sound like a lot until I'm paying like $50 a week in tokens. So I'd rather not. I can sit here and run it once and pin it and just work my way through the problem. And so that, if you guys are like worried about cost or speed, keep some of these things pinned. And if you pin something new from that editor, it's going to override it all. But I like to keep a workflow pinned if I want to make a change. Like let's say I want to change the prompt. I'll pin everything else before, and I'll just sit here, put a new prompt in, and I'll just keep clicking play over and over and over and over again until I get it the way I want. And I'm only spending the money within this flow. I'm not spending any other money on AI or the other portion, like trying out my Reddit. If looking at the Reddit one, I've got like almost 10 different calls to Reddit. If I keep hitting test on that thing, like Reddit's going to get mad eventually. So what I can do is I can go in there and start pulling off tools and testing it too. So that's one thing, is like it's very flexible. It's like it's not working. What do I do here? You don't have to delete things. You can just, I'm going in here. Okay, all these work, but the last one, I could, or let's say it's the other way around. I can go in here. I can delete it. I didn't delete the tool. It's just not going to run it anymore. And then whenever I want to, I just reconnect it. My comment search isn't working or something like that. Okay, let's delete everything but the comments. And now I want the AI to just make sure the comment works. Okay, they worked. Okay, I'm going to connect all my connectors back. Like I always tell people, like, don't start deleting things in here. Like, here's my YNAB. I told you guys about the YNAB budget. Yeah, I didn't delete it. It was really hard to set up. I just don't use it. So it's, don't delete.
So there's
no
secure credentials vault that you could use outside of the tool. So you actually have to go in there and put the credentials inside. Correct? I think that's a limiting factor.
It will here. So if you'll notice, I have my login here. So there's Reddit account. So there's my accounts are listed here. I have to go into there. So your limiting factor on community is you can't share those. You have to, and that's what I think Anthony was talking about. You have to go with the enterprise or some other program that they host. so funny enough, if you get an enterprise license, you can still run locally with that license. But then you get they'll license your abilities to share those. And they don't really share so much as you can have two different n8n instances and they can both point to the same credential. So if you change it in one location, the other location gets the update. So I won't even say they let you back up the credentials. I'm not going to make the claim I've never tested. So I couldn't tell you.
No, it'd be nice to have it externally somewhere, like a credential, like a vault or somewhere where you could just reuse the credentials, update it as you want outside of the tool. And that just for the added security.
Let me see. I honestly don't know. That's why I often do a search in here. There is. So here's all the things you can do. And I don't, this is, so actually you can. You could technically have a file with credentials and you can actually tell n8n to create and delete credentials or to get a credential schema. So they have it in here where you could store it in some kind of file, retrieve it somehow, and then create it on the fly. I've never done that. I don't know how hard that is. Like you can create workflows. So you could have a workflow that creates other workflows that creates other workflows. Like I've never played in this area. This seems like somebody that's running like real heavy type of. I could imagine a lot of people that use n8n are like real estate agents, so they'll create websites per houses and things. And I think what they do is that they create. Some of the videos I've seen, they'll take a template of something running a website, and then they'll basically just issue a command that just duplicates that for another website, changes some things. Like I've seen the uses. I don't have any use for I don't have this workflow, but it looks like you could probably look up. Let's see, create a credential. How do we create a credential? Well,
just looked it up.
I don't know.
Store it encrypt it in the database, and but it does sort of seem like you can have your own credential store. I'm just checking.
Yeah, I'd be wondered if this would work with something like BitLocker, for instance. Like I might not trust them at all. Maybe I want it to always go through BitLocker, and at any time I can cut off the BitLocker, or something like that.
Yeah. Well, even like, Python, you can grab it from your local, environment variables.
I don't think you can
bring that
single sign-on either. I've not seen where you could set up so if you want to do something with single sign-on where, let's say a user was using a web form that used this workflow, that they could pass their single sign-on. Like I don't think it's quite that enterprise ready, but I could be wrong. Somebody might have done it.
I think it is actually. Like one thing is I wouldn't use environment variables for credentials because you can inspect the environment variables of other processes externally. But so that's why I use keyring, because it goes into whatever your vault or your on a Mac it's going to keychain, and on a Windows it's going to Windows Credential Store. So it is somewhat robust in that thing. But in the enterprise version of n8n, you can use Azure or AWS Secret Manager or AWS Param Store. So you can set it up to actually use a proper external secret manager. So the fact that they've done that, it's in there somewhere. So you might be able to do it locally as well. Or maybe it's just something they insist on you paying for.
I did notice it said security audit was an option too, which is a very specific type of language that sounds enterprise.
I wonder how that works.
I have no idea. I looked at that.
That sounds like something you'd run if you were using it for a business. Audit is a very specific terminology that you use for that type of thing.
Well, the thing is, it's not even just a business. I think people need to be really careful in this stuff to make sure you manage your credentials outside of it, because it's the sort of thing that could easily be targeted in various ways.
I completely agree. I'm with you on that. People are way too careless with their stuff outside of this. Way too careless.
Another limitation is you can't do variables either. So I was looking around. I thought I've seen the security audit exist somewhere. If you have the enterprise, you can also set global variables. You can still set them locally, but they won't carry over to sub work groups. And so if you want to create you want a global variable for company A, company B, it won't do that. Yeah, I thought somewhere in here, I just haven't looked at that security audit for a while. It didn't look useful to me. I'm sure it's useful to somebody, but it didn't trigger anything in my mind of something I wanted. Let's see. Yeah.
Well, we're at an
You see I
hour
use it.
45. I don't want to take if we're take too much of your time, like how you feeling? Travis, I know you hopped in here. Did you have any questions?
Oh, thank you. Thank you for asking. I've actually, I'm currently building a node-based tool for National Science Foundation, but I've never dove into n8n. So I was very excited to see the topic. I definitely need to dive in and play with it a little bit, but this has been really insightful. The security stuff, it really resonates. I know that people definitely seem to be throwing their credentials all over the place and dropping confidential documents into, SaaS platforms and AI assistants all over the place. So thank you. That's very helpful.
I would say where I'm running this at work, and I don't go very public with where I work, but I work for a government agency. The box I put this on, this is sitting inside a secured VLAN, and it's literally one of the ones that our security, our external security, pretty much just sits and watches 24/7. So I have a little less to worry about. But it's also sitting in a Docker. We use quite a few Docker, and so we know how to run Docker and sort of our workflow without trying to expose very much. We don't really open external ports. We sort of, it's hard to explain how they do it. It's a little weird and different. So most of the things that we would actually want to connect to are not an issue. So if we were connecting to something like a Gmail or something, we don't use Gmail. But if we wanted to connect, for instance, a news service and have some type of news update, for instance, I'll give you a good example. So for instance, different governments run RSS feeds for their news disclosures and updates and everything going on. So if we wanted to have a consolidated feed, or if we wanted to know if we were mentioned in the news feed, we could have that running because we're keeping everything at sort of HTTP level. We're not logging into doing anything. We're not doing any, we're not making a Google Sheet. We're not using a Supabase. Like the last thing in the world I'm going to do at work is use Supabase. Like, I don't want laughed at. Like I'll do that at home, but nobody's going to laugh at me at home. But B, it's one of those, we were actually paying for like enterprise grade level licensed servers for SQL. I don't know why they actually do that. I kind of disagree, but it's one of those things where we're not going to put in credentials. We're not even going to put in a service account for Microsoft. We're not going to do, there's a few things we might be able to do that we're already comfortable doing in Python. And I would say if we're not comfortable doing it in Python, n8n is not, it's not a replacement. I think for me, n8n is really when you want to do quite a bit, but actually spending the time to code it is overkill and is a waste of time. You're going to get this nice tool, but that nice tool might have taken 2 months for a junior tech to code, and it's going to be buggy and it's going to have its own security problems. Whereas, I could have them do this and then go do something else. And so it's a trade-off of how difficult the task is, what you're willing for it to connect to, and how much time you really want. Like if you're willing to put in 2 years into a project, I would not spend 2 years building an n8n workflow. Like at that, like you're in a serious project at that point. Anything that's going to take more than, honestly, anything that takes more than a week in n8n is probably a coding project. Like I like messing with this and playing with it. I'm going to be bringing it in because I have certain workflows, but a lot of what I'm doing with workflows are, I'm going to be taking something from area A and moving to area B, and trying to write a Windows PowerShell to do it seems ridiculous. And this really is a better solution, not just the cool new thing solution. That's probably my best answer is if you're going to use it, I would just try to fit it in the most appropriate place, depending on what you're actually wanting to get out of it.
I would just add that for the 2 year version of the product, the platform risk, right? What like what are they going to change? Are they going to go away, be acquired? Yeah, like you name it. Over, when you're a year into development. So yeah, I mean, I think we've all probably been burned by building on a platform. So
I still have people who are running Access database programs.
Sure.
Those things live for decades, and so yeah, I've still got some that need to convert it to Python or something else. So yeah, I don't want stuck on an abandoned platform at all. And it's one of those things. Like, I also think, like in my case, a lot we think about, because our team's a little bit smaller, we think about the bus problem. What if a bus crashed into our building, or we were all on a bus and we went over the bridge? How hard are the tools we leave behind for another IT department to pick up? N8n is just, it's going to be the N8n they're going to look at and go, okay, yeah, we understand that, and then move on to the Python, or then move on to the PowerShell, or then move on to our web code, which is going to be far more complex, and Power BI and all sorts of those things where they kind of need to get in a subject matter expert. Yeah. The N8n is the stuff I don't want them ever thinking about, that a child could go in there and honestly just kind of look at and go, yeah, that makes sense. I know what that does.
The way I'm also
this is the first thing I've looked at that I'm like, oh, I could use this.
Yeah.
This is something I could actually figure out.
Yeah,
not replacing the programs, but as the glue. And a shape to, because I make what's exciting me about this is I make all these little programs, but it means I've got 1,000 little things in cron or sitting around waiting. So having one place that organizes all the events that go in, show me where they go, this would be amazing for me. Even though obviously I'm going to code a lot of the stuff that I do. It's that sort of thing. So, and you wouldn't want to put too much logic in it anyway. But also, as I've said to, I mean, when we were talking about what we're going to do with this, or what you could do with this AI Leo or something, nowadays I actually think as we push more and more logic into the intelligence side of things, or the prompt side of things, I actually think there's a step where you can take that, you can get the logic, the prompts out of the system. Like if you call the prompt somewhere else, like for instance, the AI Leo, I was suggesting to Anthony that you would actually have the key prompts that manage it maintainable through Discord, so that they're not actually stored in your n8n web thing. They're in a Discord channel. So if he sees it doing something wrong, he can immediately go and just say, add to the prompt this.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. Yeah.
So you can see the prompt. And I do that sort of thing in other things too. So the actual real logic, like the n8n is connecting A to B to C to D.
Yeah.
But all the real smarts are in this.
Or just probably like a Google spreadsheet that,
which is trivial to change, trivial to update at any point. And that, even if n8n went away, you've still got that prompt sitting there that you can.
If I might warn you from one thing to try, if you can pull it off, kudos. I had the brilliant idea that I'm going to do a different kind of AI where eventually it would look at its own prompt and say, hey, maybe I should change that. So I added my prompt to Supabase, and I gave the AI the ability to change it. If you want a complete psychopath, it will double down on any quirkiness and just take that. So don't let the AI edit its own prompt. It wasn't painful. It was amusing, but I've never had an AI make me that angry that fast. I'm like, what is wrong with you? Why are you like this? And I'm like, my AI is really mean and cruel. Like, why? And
that will be half of my use of something. I like to drive things insane. So I would be very curious what it would do with some of the stuff I threw at it. That would actually be more appealing.
I have a finance analytic tool that I wrote for myself. And the first line of the code basically says, look at this code, go to the web, figure if anything changed in the world about finance, and rewrite the code. So it rewrites itself every time it runs. And it's supposed to progressively get better at finding either new stats that someone's come up with, new charts or anything, and then add it to the analysis of what they are, and it's an ETF analysis tool. And it's fun to play with because every so often, yeah, you're right, it goes awry. Thank God part of it does a command git, so it does a add and commit and push. So I have the older versions and I can go back when it goes awry. But it's interesting to see what an AI will do to continuously improve itself.
Well, that does command thing that I've put out there that I use every day, which is it has sessions and everything. But for each session, at the end of it goes, do you have any learnings that will make future sessions better? Now, this isn't the entire prompt. Like, it's managed by a lot of prompts, but it does collect these learnings and store them for next time you come in, and it's constantly updating. So it is it's not fully rewriting the prompt, but it is giving itself information for future sessions.
Are you storing that in a store and you're keeping that each time?
Yeah. So I mean, the code's up there. You can look at it. It's on my GitHub Daz command, but it stores each session in a directory, and it stores various things about the session in JSON files in that directory. So it's got an ability to create a new session. So if I'm working with, like, I don't know, let's suppose I'm making a virtual AI Leo, then I say create session AI Leo or something like this, and then say, here's what I want to achieve. And it stores that, and it's storing an ongoing where I got up to, because I find it's an MCP, so I find Claude runs out of space often, and you run out of conversation length. So it stores every step it does. It stores why I did that, what I was planning to do, what it's part of. But it also stores a summary, and it also stores separately a set of learnings, and it also stores explicit instructions in case I'm like, never, ever, ever do this again. So it goes into a list of instructions, because often they do things that you really want to say, never do that again. And so it stores all of those as like a context of, and when you open a session, it reads that stuff into the context, and it gives a summary of basically where it was up to, and then you can continue. But then it can do anything on your machine. It'll run commands. It'll do anything, anything. So you can just say, like, you can open a session and say, install Vibe Voice, and get it working. And then you just walk away and come back and it's working, type thing.
Nice.
All right. Well, we're rounding on 2 hours now, so probably now is a good time to wrap things up. But Dr. Du, thank you for the walkthrough.
I'm just glad I could make it. I get to make half of them, and I feel like I just disappoint by not even being in the audience. I'm like, dang it, I missed another Friday, and I got to wait a month for another one.
I appreciate this a lot, because, like I said, this is the first thing I've seen where I'm like, no, I do want to actually.
It's fun. You should definitely poke around.
And anytime somebody has a Death Wish sticker that I can see on a camera, I'm like, oh, I have respect for this person, along with how Adobe law shirts. So
I almost wore my Death Wish shirt. I have one of those. My wife is actually the one that was the. We have the patches. We have everything. I did want to throw one thing out there, just in case anybody is like, okay, I want to start this, but I don't have an API key. I'm like tier 4 now. I would never spend that money again to get tier 4 on OpenAI. OpenRouter.ai. There is no other competition. Forget everyone. Just get OpenRouter AI. Everything is prepay now. Don't throw them any serious money. Even just give them $5.
No, I threw in
play with
$20.
Forever. Yeah, $20. Yeah.
I can't tell you how much money I've wasted through OpenRouter, but
Anthropic actually, this is a side story. Anthropic actually just stole my money. If you don't use your money you put in the account after a certain time, they expire it. And they also don't turn off the auto billing. So they canceled $40 and then charged me $50. And I'm like, what? So use your credits too. If you let them sit, OpenRouter probably also at some point will steal your money and say, that was $50 last year. What have you done for me lately? So I would, like, anyone that wants to, like, well, I'm going to use a lot, I'm throwing in $200. Do not do that. It's actually hard to spend $200 unless you start like running straight Opus 4.1 and GPT-5 Pro or something crazy like that. Like, don't throw in your paycheck.
Also, OSS 20B is pretty frigging good now. You can do a lot of stuff with the local models. And also, when you're saying Superbase, one thing, ChromaDB is the SQLite equivalent of something like Superbase. It's a vector DB that works like SQLite. It's just a single file, and so it's extremely useful. I use it for everything like this, where you don't want to actually have to set up a separate server. So
yeah, 20B is great. I need to get the correct OLAMA. You do have to get I didn't set mine up correctly. I used the wrong local LLM, and the API doesn't work easily for me, so I'm resetting mine up in OLAMA for 20B. Like, that's something I'd like for work usage, where I want to get some logic in there, but I'm not putting anything out to an OpenAI at work.
Yeah. I have the same problem as we do a lot of stuff locally at work, because even though we have an OpenAI license or whatever, but there's stuff when you're at a finance institution, you just don't want it going outside your walls. And personally, internally, again, as you said, you don't want your stuff showing up on a New York Times lawsuit, right? So sometimes you want to be able to play with something as useful, and I did buy myself an M4 Mac just to kind of do that. I just rebuilt my Windows 11 laptop so I can run other stuff, because every so often that gets cruddied up. But yeah, there's times you got to refresh. But yeah, thanks. We were talking in the chat about whether I said, should I do another demo? I'm like, no, do one demo, because one demo's enough, and we killed 2 hours with one demo. I was absolutely right not to prep anything.
No, that was useful.
You let me talk. We could have gone 4 hours.
There's always next.
Shouldn't let me talk.
That's my problem. So thank you, gentlemen. I'm going to bail out so Anthony can bring this to a close. So
yeah.
Thanks.
Well, yeah. Bye, everyone. Thanks for watching. We'll do this again in a month. Keep an eye out in the events tab on Discord. Appreciate everyone who is a part of Club TWiT and supports us. And if you're watching and not yet a member, hey, join. We'd love to have you hop in here and talk with us. All right. Thanks, everyone.